What's up, everybody? How's it going? And welcome to the Car Rant Podcast. If you're new around here and you've never seen one of our shows before, the podcast is something we film about once a week and talk about cool car topics. So just sit back, relax, do what you gotta do, and enjoy the conversation. What's up, everybody? How's it going? And welcome to this episode of the Car Rant Podcast. Today, it's just myself at home, so forgive me if there's other noise. My landlord's having a thing upstairs, so we're going to just kind of power through this as best as we can without too much distraction. Today's topic is very simple. We are talking about Mitsubishi from the perspective of both Mitsubishi and us, the consumers. Now, the reason why I want to do it in these two different segments is because, unfortunately, there's a bit of a disconnect right now, anyway, between diehard Mitsubishi fans and Mitsubishi, because they're discontinuing lines of cars that we have loved for years, or they're getting involved in things that personally we wish they wouldn't, or things of that nature. So boiling all of that down to, like, here's how it is, here's what's going on, and here's what we wish we would see what happened. So to give us a little bit of a background, I do have my laptop over here, so forgive me if I keep bouncing around, but to give us a little bit of a backup, I want to point out that I'm not saying I love everything that Mitsubishi's done, because let's be real, the Eclipse as an SUV
is sacrilege.
So, yeah, work with that how you will. But after doing some homework, I can kind of understand why they did it. As many of you people know, Nissan purchased a huge stake in Mitsubishi Heavy Industries and Mitsubishi Electric, which more or less bought their car brand out. That's just kind of the short version of it. With that said, Nissan has come out and said many times that they feel like the Juke is what the younger audience wants. Their younger, more, for lack of better terms, college and career age target group is basically in that area. Here's what I found. I went online, I wanted to look some things up, and on January 4th, 2017, the Associated Press reports 2016 U.S. auto sales set a new record high led by SUVs. Okay, there's a number of other listings that basically report the same thing. All of that said, late in 2016 is when Nissan bought out Mitsubishi. Also that same year, the Lancer line was shut down at Mitsubishi, which we should all shed a tear for, because that was a great car. I don't care who you are. You've driven one or an Evo, you will understand. Those are some good cars. But that said, putting it all in perspective, it makes sense why Nissan would then kind of help influence Mitsubishi into turning some of their cars into SUVs, which is tragic. Trust me, I'm in that boat with you guys. I don't like the idea of an Eclipse as an SUV instead of a dope front-wheel or all-wheel drive sports car with the same heart as an Evo. Like, I'm right there with you guys on this. But seeing what they're seeing from the new car market, you got to remember, these guys are trying to make money now. They're not trying to make money later. So while the 240 is huge and popular right now, you know, back in the day, it wasn't selling all that much, if we're honest. Like, it sold a lot. Okay, we get it. But it was sold, the demographic of that car wasn't a young buying market, because it was really angled more towards the older generation. Your grandparents drove these cars. Your parents in midlife crisis drove these cars. I found out today that my stepdad in Ohio had a 240 coupe, which blows my mind. I'm like, you actually had one of those? What? When did this happen? You know what I'm saying? So, with that in perspective, keep this in mind. Now, here we are in the modern era where SUVs are everywhere. I look in my neighborhood, and there's maybe 13 cars and 50 SUVs and trucks. People like the bigger vehicles because in their minds, they think they're safer. They think that they are more spacious and they can get more out of it. They think they have more power, which in a lot of cases is true. There are, of course, SUVs and sedans that are very roomy, have a lot of power, all of those things. But people in general that aren't car people think that SUVs are a safer car, which is why a lot of people go towards SUVs. What does this have to do with Mitsubishi? Well, Mitsubishi's known for a couple different SUVs like the Pajero or Pajero, however you want to call that, the Outlander. There was a couple other models they had. Their trucks were good. A friend of mine had one. It was an Outlander, and he had it for like 16 years. Like, the thing just lasted forever. Just maintenance, and it would go. Which, if we're honest, that's really good for a truck to just keep on going, especially a Mitsubishi. I'm not saying that they're unreliable. I get it. Y'all think they are. So with that said, I can understand why Nissan wants Mitsubishi to make trucks. Also, think about it this way. Nissan bought Mitsubishi, and now all of their sports car models, aside from the 3000 GT, are FTO. Please, for the love of God, don't make that into an SUV. I think everyone will burn Mitsubishi to the ground if you do that. Yeah. It makes sense to me that Nissan would influence Mitsubishi to not make sports cars because they want to make sports cars. Nissan has the 370Z. They have Nismo versions of almost every car that they've ever made currently. They have GTRs coming out. They have, supposedly, under the radar, we'll talk about this on a different show, but supposedly there's a new 400Z. Unconfirmed, or if it has been confirmed, there's a lot of rumors around it and about it. Kind of like the Supra. It's weird how all these companies are starting to kind of do this Supra style marketing, which is kind of annoying if I'm honest with you. Just tell us what it is so we can be more excited to see it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I get the anticipation of, oh, we don't know exactly what it's going to have, whether it's going to have a BMW V8 or a Toyota TRD inspired engine or whatever. Like, it drove me nuts. So now that we know like what's in the Supra, like, I can feel more relaxed, but I can actually be actually excited about it. Because otherwise there's apprehension of what if they absolutely blow it and just all of our expectations are not only dismembered and destroyed, but now no one cares anymore, you know? Like, you gotta come out with it so that we know what's gonna come next. But bringing it back around to Nissan and their sports car division, it makes sense why they would want to limit the competition within a category. Because let's be real, no one's really buying Nissan's trucks. No one's really going out there trying to get those. However, Mitsubishi is known for trucks. They've had a truck line for a long time. Then they had their commercial vehicles, which were the Mitsubishi Fuso, which are still in commission all over the world, especially in their states. I remember seeing a Fuso dealership, believe it or not, in New Jersey. I can't remember where, but it's still a thing. It's still a very big part of their market, and that's why, for me, it makes sense to see them go the route of SUVs. Now, let's get serious. Let's talk about this from we the people's perspective, because, again, we've spent enough time talking about this. Let's talk about it from Joe Schmo, Nick Lanza, from Virginia, what I think. The short version, we want our sports cars back. We want our Evo. We want our Eclipse. We want our 3000 GT. We want our Gallant VR4, or Gallant, whatever you want to call it. We want our sports cars back. This is the era where sports cars have probably had the best opportunity for success, tunability, and basically being bought by people than I think any other time before this. Because, like, yeah, there was the turbo era of the 80s and whatnot, and people bought a lot of cars in that category and things of that nature. But when it comes to people wanting to build cars today, a lot of cars, man, they get onto the showroom floor, and within like 6 months, there are a bunch of supporting mods for that vehicle. For example, stuff like the Nismo Juke had parts within a very short period of time, so you could modify those to be faster. Like, you gotta understand, tuners are more thirsty for new things than probably ever before, because now all the things that we've been spending the past several years modifying the crap out of, there's nothing left to modify. Like, we want to expand our enterprises into new things, into new categories. So for us to be stuck where we are without being able to shift around into other things, it's just entrapping for people like us. That's why so many people have been lobbying to try and get a 240SX and S16 back on this, like, the ideas with Nissan. They want to see that made. They want to see that vehicle become a reality. They want to see the new version of a Z. They want to see a new version of the Eclipse that's not an SUV, an actual two-door sports car. They want to see the VR4 Gallant come back because that thing was a beast for a full-size sedan. We're in a day and age where we want to see that kind of stuff come back around. Now, Ish and I were talking about this the other day. The sad reality is that, unfortunately, as much as we might want those things to happen, cost of making cars has gone up. Back in the day, you could buy a 240SX for $10,000 out the door from a dealership. And that's, of course, for like the basic of basic models and things of that nature. But now, if you want a base model of anything, even a base model Lancer from 2015, you're still probably spending $17,000 to $18,000 for one that's never been driven, if you can find one. And it's sad, but it's true. Like, cars just cost more to make. It costs more to produce. So for us to get cheap sports cars again, I mean, Toyota, let's be real, Toyota, props to y'all, because you made the GT86, and as much as we like to hate on that thing for having pretty much no power, you're trying to save the market. That car by itself revitalized a part of the tuner community I don't think people realized needed revolutions and revivals in, because now we have a new car to modify, and now we've reached a point where we've kind of modified that thing all the way to its end point. Superchargers and turbos and body kits and suspension kits and interior parts and all that. I think we've reached a limit on that car. I think now we need another car to come onto the scene. Now the Supra, of course, is coming out at a great time, but people like myself want to see Eclipses and 3000 GTs come back in their prime. We want to see them come back and do things that, like they did before, were unconventional, were more or less sports cars for people who actually enjoyed driving and didn't mind, you know, the way that those cars handled and the fact that they were pretty heavy for their time. I mean, let's be real, 3000 GT was a 3,800 pound car with active aerodynamics and all these other cool gadgetries and technologies built into the vehicle. Like, that was something unheard of, and now it's common on like even things like Audi TTs and whatnot, for crying out loud. So when it comes to that kind of market, there's opportunity to be had. It just needs to be tapped into. The problem again is so many people are buying these cars that are, well, SUVs, factory SUVs. And I'm not trying to hate on those people. I get it. You need to buy a car for your means and what it is that you do. It's just for people like myself, we wish we could afford to buy sports cars from the factory brand new, because if we could, let's be real, if Mitsubishi came out tomorrow and said, listen, we're going to make a new version of the Eclipse, we're going to scrap the whole idea of doing an SUV and we're going to make it into another sports coupe, I'm pretty sure there are going to be people all over the place going, bet, go to the bank, get an auto loan and try and get one of them things right now. Why do I believe that's the case? Because people are spending almost that much to get really, really clean cars like the Eclipse right now. You know, JR Garage put out a video. He's trying to sell his R32 for $20,000. I'm just saying, that's the cost of a new car. I mean, come on, people. Like, let's put in perspective. All the cars that we want growing up are now the same cost as cars today. If we could, we would. That's how it is right now. So I'm hoping somebody from Mitsubishi and Nissan and Toyota and all those other great car brands are listening, because we want our legendary heroes from the 80s and 90s to come back. We want to see tuner culture come back around from the factory again, where we were able to modify the daylights out of cars and over-engineer them ourselves and do all the things we want to do to make them fast, to make them great, to make them be perfect race cars out of the box. That's what we want to see again. I want to thank you guys for watching today's video. If you had any questions or you had any comments, please leave them down below. We do read every comment that we get. And thank you for listening. Thanks for tuning in. I know this is different having just myself kind of do this on my own. We are going to have another podcast come out this week because I'm going out of town. So I'm headed to Oklahoma City to see some family. While I'm in Oklahoma City, the Evo is actually getting modified and built. That's why I figured this would be a good time to talk about this topic, is because, well, the car won't be here, and I guess I can talk about the brand that made it. Otherwise, thank you all for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you on another episode. God bless you guys, and peace.